The Tree of Desire. After the death of King Indranath, Kunwar Rajnath was so pressed from all sides by his enemies that he had to flee with his life to take refuge with an old servant who was the feudal lord of a small village. Kunwar, by nature, was peace-loving, poetic, and a young man who enjoyed passing time with laughter and play. Instead of the battlefield, he preferred to showcase his brilliance in the realm of poetry. The joy he found in discussing poetry while sitting under a tree with fellow enthusiasts was something he couldn't find in hunting or in the royal court. Upon arriving in this village surrounded by mountains, the peace and happiness he experienced was such that he would have renounced many kingdoms in return. The scenic beauty of the mountains, the eye-pleasing greenery, the sweet music of the flowing water, the melodious calls of the birds, the leaps of the young deer, the frolic of the calves, the childlike simplicity of the villagers, and the shy playfulness of the village women, all these were new to him. But more than all of this, what attracted him was Chanda, the young daughter of the feudal lord. Chanda handled all the household chores herself. She never had the chance to play in her mother's lap. She was always engaged in serving her father. Her marriage was due this year, but in the meantime, Kunwar's arrival in her life sparked new emotions and hopes. The image she had painted in her mind of her future husband seemed to come to life before her eyes in Kunwar. For Kunwar, too, his ideal woman took form in Chanda. But Kunwar thought, where am I so fortunate? And Chanda thought, where is he, and where am I? It was midday in the month of Jaith, summer. The tiled roof of the house began to heat up like a furnace. The prince, who usually stayed in cool grass huts and cellars, became so restless from the heat that he came outside and sat in the shade of a dense tree in the garden. Suddenly, he saw Chanda coming back with a water pot from the river. Below her feet was the scorching sand, and above was the blazing sun. Her body was scorched by the hot wind. Perhaps even a man dying of thirst wouldn't dare go to the river at that time. Why had Chanda gone to fetch water? The house had enough water. Why had she gone out in this heat to fetch more? Kunwar hurriedly approached her and, attempting to snatch the pot from her hand, said, "Give it to me, and run to the shade." What was the need for water at this time? Chanda didn't let go of the pot. Adjusting the veil that had slipped off her head, she asked, "How did you come out at this time? Couldn't stand the heat inside?" "Kunwar, give it to me, or I will snatch it." Chanda smiled and said, "It doesn't suit princes to carry water pots." Kunwar grabbed the mouth of the pot and said, "I've already suffered a lot for this title of prince. Chanda, now I feel ashamed to even call myself a prince." "Chanda, look, you're getting troubled in the heat, and now you're troubling me too. Let go of the pot. I'm telling the truth, it's water for worship." "Kunwar, will it become impure if I carry the water for worship?" "Chanda, alright, if you insist, then you carry it." "Yes, you must." Kunwar took the pot and walked ahead, with Chanda following behind. When they reached the garden, Chanda stopped near a small plant and said, "This is the deity I have to worship. Put the pot down." Kunwar asked in astonishment, "Who is the deity here, Chanda? I don't see anyone." While watering the plant, Chanda replied, "This is my deity." As the plant drank the water, its withered leaves turned green, as if its eyes had opened. Kunwar asked, "Did you plant this, Chanda?" While tying the plant to a straight stick, Chanda replied, "Yes, the day you arrived here. This was where my doll's house used to be. I planted the amola, a type of plant, to give shade to my dolls. Then I forgot about it amidst the household chores. The day you arrived, for some reason, I remembered this plant. When I came to check, it had dried up. I immediately fetched water and began to revive it. Since then, I've been watering it regularly. Look how lush and green it's become." Saying this, she lifted her head and looked at Kunwar and said, "I may forget all other tasks, but I never forget to water this plant. You are its life giver. You revived it when you arrived. Otherwise, it would have withered. This is a memento of your auspicious arrival. Look at it carefully. It seems to be smiling. It feels to me as if it talks to me. I swear, sometimes it cries, sometimes it laughs, sometimes it sulks. Today, after receiving the water you brought, it's overjoyed. Each leaf is thanking you. Kumar felt as if the plant were a playful little child. Just as a child, pleased by a kiss, spreads its arms to be lifted into the lap, the plant, too, seemed to be extending its hands. Every particle of the plant reflected Chanda's love. Chanda's house had all the tools for farming. Kumar picked up a spade and dug a basin around the plant, raising an embankment around it. Then, taking a small hoe, he loosened the soil inside the basin. The plant grew even more vibrant. Chanda said, "Can you hear what it's saying?" Kumar, smiling, replied, "Yes, it says, I will sit in mother's lap." Chanda, "No, it says, don't forget me after showing so much love." But Kunwar's punishment for being a prince was not over yet. His enemies somehow tracked him down. On one hand, the elderly Kuber Singh, pressured by well-wishers, was preparing for the wedding of Chanda and Kunwar. On the other hand, a group of enemies arrived at their doorstep. Kunwar had transformed the area around the plant into a small garden by planting flowers and shrubs. Now, watering the plant had become his responsibility. One morning, while he was carrying water from the river with a shoulder yoke, 10 or 12 men surrounded him on the way. Kuber Singh rushed out with his sword, but the enemies killed him. What could an unarmed Kunwar do? Standing with the water yoke on his shoulder, he said, "Why are you after me now, brothers? I have given up everything." The leader replied, "We have orders to capture you." Kunwar said, "Can't your master bear to see me even in this state? Fine. If you have any sense of honor, give me Kuber Singh's sword so that I can fight for my freedom before I die." In response, the soldiers bound Kunwar, tied his hands, and placed him on a horse, which they then galloped away. The water yoke was left lying there. At that moment, Chanda came out of the house, saw the yoke lying there, and the people taking Kunwar away on horseback. Like a wounded bird, she ran a few steps, then collapsed. Darkness engulfed her vision. Suddenly, her eyes fell on her father's corpse. Terrified, she rushed to his side. Kuber was not yet dead. His last breath was caught in his throat. Seeing Chanda, he uttered in a faint voice, "Daughter." Kunwar. He couldn't say more. He died. But the word, Kumwar, had revealed his intention. 20 years passed. Kumwar couldn't escape captivity. It was a hill fort. As far as the eye could see, there were mountains. Inside the fort, he was not mistreated. There were servants, food, clothes, and opportunities for hunting. But who could quell the fire of separation that constantly burned in Kunwar's heart? There was no hope or light left in his life. If he had any desire left, it was to visit the pilgrimage of that love where he had received all that a man could ever receive. His only wish was to see that sacred land, where memories were filled with joy, and end his life by that riverbank. Yes, his only wish was to see that sacred land filled with holy memories, and to end his life by that very riverbank. That same riverbank, the same cluster of trees, the same small beautiful house of Chanda, constantly revolved in his mind, and the plant, which they both had nurtured together, seemed to hold his very soul within it. Would that day ever come when he would see that plant laden with fresh green leaves? Who knows, is it still there or has it dried up? Who would be watering it now? Chanda would surely not have remained unmarried for so long, could she? It was not even possible. She would have no memory of me now. Yes, perhaps sometimes, when memories of her home might surface, she would glance at the plant and remember me. What more could someone as unfortunate as me expect from her? He could give his life just to see that land one more time, but that desire seemed impossible to fulfill. Ah! An era had passed, sorrow and despair had crushed his rising youth. His eyes had lost their light, and his legs had lost their strength. What was life to him? It was just a painful dream. He saw nothing in the thick darkness around him. His life's only foundation was a desire, a pleasant dream that he had once seen, perhaps in the distant past. He wished to see that dream again, and then his desires would come to an end. He would have no more wishes left. The entire infinite future, all his infinite worries, were absorbed into that one dream. His guards had no suspicion left about him now. They pitied him. At night, only one guard would stay on watch while the others slept peacefully. There was no possibility or fear that Kumar might escape. So much so that one day, even this guard, feeling relaxed, lay down with his gun and quickly fell into deep sleep, like a wild animal waiting to pounce on its prey. As soon as he lay down, sleep overtook him. Kumar heard the sound of the guards snoring. His heart began to beat rapidly. This was the opportunity he had waited for so many days. He stood up, but his legs were trembling. He lacked the courage to descend the steps from the veranda. What if the guard woke up? Violence could assist him. The guard's sword lay beside him. But love has no use for violence. Kumar gently woke the guard up. Startled, the guard sat up. Whatever suspicion remained in his heart vanished. The next time he slept, he began snoring loudly. At dawn, when the guard woke, he rushed to peek into Kunwar's room. Kumar was nowhere to be found. Kunwar, at that moment, was riding on the wings of the wind, fleeing with the rapid speed of his imagination toward that place where he had once seen the sweet dream of happiness. The fort was searched in every corner, the commander sent riders, but no trace of him was found. The paths through the mountains were difficult, and on top of that, he was in the grip of a forced exile, with death's messengers chasing him, making his escape even more difficult. It took Kumar months to reach the place of his desire. When his journey was finally complete, only one desire remained within him. After a grueling journey, when he reached that place, it was already evening. There was no sign of the village. Only 2 or 3 broken huts remained as relics of the village's existence. The hut, once filled with the light of love, under which they had spent joyful days, the very temple of his desires and worship, had now crumbled like his long-held aspirations. The dilapidated condition of the hut silently told its own sorrowful story. The moment Kunwar saw it, he cried out, "Chanda, Chanda," and ran toward it. He rubbed its dust on his forehead, as if it were the sacred ashes of a deity, and clung to its broken walls, weeping for a long time. Oh, desire! Had he come all this way just to cry? This longing to weep had tormented him for so long. But in this weeping, there was a kind of heavenly joy. Could the joy of the entire world compare to the bliss of these tears? Then he stepped out of the hut. In front of him, in the open field, stood a tree cradling fresh, green leaves as if welcoming him. This was the plant that they had planted together 20 years ago. Like a madman, Kunwar ran to it and embraced the tree, as if a father was clutching his motherless child to his chest. This was the symbol of that very love, that eternal love which, after so many years, had grown so vast. Kunwar's heart felt as if it would absorb the tree within itself, shielding it from even the slightest breeze. Every single leaf carried a memory of Chanda. Had he ever heard such delightful birdsong? His hands were weak, his entire body was exhausted from hunger and thirst, but he climbed the tree with such agility that even a monkey wouldn't have been able to. Sitting on the highest branch, he proudly gazed around. This was the paradise of his desires. The entire scene seemed filled with Chanda. On the distant blue mountain ranges, it seemed as though Chanda was sitting and singing. She was flying on the reddish clouds drifting in the sky. On the golden beams of the sun, it seemed that Chanda was laughing. Kunwar felt that if he were a bird, he would live his days sitting on these branches. When darkness fell, he descended from the tree, cleared a little patch of land beneath it, made a bed out of leaves, and lay down. This was the golden dream of his life. Ah, this was renunciation. Now, he would never leave the shelter of this tree, not even for the throne of Delhi. Under that tender, pure moonlight, suddenly, a bird came and perched on the tree, singing a song filled with pain. It seemed as though the tree itself was swaying with sorrow. The silent night trembled with the melody of that grief-filled song. Kunwar's heart twisted as if it were about to burst. The song was filled with arrows of sorrow and separation. Ah, bird, surely your mate has also been lost, otherwise, how could your song carry so much pain, such deep sadness, such weeping? Kunwar's heart was being torn apart, each note of the song pierced his soul like an arrow. He couldn't sit still any longer. In a state of self-forgetfulness, he ran to the hut and then returned to the tree. How could he find that bird? It was nowhere to be seen. When the bird's song stopped, Kumwar fell asleep. In his dream, he saw the bird approach him. Kumwar looked closely and saw that it wasn't a bird, but Chanda herself. Yes, it was Chanda in the flesh. Kumwar asked, Chanda, where is this bird? Chanda replied, I am the bird. Kumwar, you are the bird? Were you the one singing? Chanda, yes, my beloved, I was the one singing. I have been crying like this for an entire era. Kumwar, where is your nest? Chanda, in that same hut, where your bed once was. I built my nest from the strings of that very bed. Kumwar, and where is your mate? Chanda, I am alone. The joy I find in remembering my beloved, in crying for him, cannot be found in having a mate. I will remain alone, and I will die alone. Kumwar, can I not become a bird? Chanda disappeared. Kumwar awoke. The redness of dawn was spreading across the sky, and the bird was chirping near Kunwar's bed, perched on a branch. Now, there was no sorrow in its song, no lamentation. It was filled with joy, mischief, and simplicity. It was not the painful cry of separation but the sweet melody of reunion. Kumwar pondered the meaning of this dream. Upon rising from his bed, he made a broom and began cleaning the hut. As long as he lived, this ruinous condition of the hut could not remain. He would rebuild its walls, put a thatch roof over it, and plaster it. It housed the memories of his Chanda. In one corner of the hut lay the water yoke he used to carry water to nourish the tree. He picked up the yoke and set off to fetch water. He hadn't eaten anything for 2 days. He had been hungry the previous night, but now he had no desire for food. He felt an extraordinary energy in his body. He began bringing water from the river and moistening the soil. He ran back and forth with such speed that he never had before. In one day, he raised more of the wall than 4 laborers could have. And what a straight, smooth wall it was, so perfect that even a craftsman would have been ashamed to see it. The power of love is boundless. Evening came. The birds settled in for the night. The trees closed their eyes as well. But where was rest for Kumwar? In the dim light of the stars, he continued laying the bricks. Ah, desire, will you not be satisfied until you take this poor man's life? The sweet voice of the bird echoed from the tree. The water jar slipped from Kunwar's hands. Covered in mud, he sat down beneath the tree. How full of beauty that song was. How much joy, how much light. Human music was out of tune in comparison. Where was the vitality, the nectar, the life in it? The joy of music lies in forgetfulness, but what kind of forgetfulness is it, so filled with memory? The power to illuminate the past with life and light, where else can one find it but in music? Kunwar's mind conjured the scene of Chanda bringing water from the river to nurture the plant. Ah, could those days ever return? Suddenly, a traveler approached and began asking Kumwar the usual questions that 2 strangers might ask. Who are you? Where do you come from? Where are you going? He had once lived in the same village but had moved to a nearby one after the village was deserted. He still had fields here, and he would come to sleep at night to protect them from wild animals. Kumwar asked, do you know a man named Kuber Singh Thakur who used to live here? The villager replied eagerly, yes, why wouldn't I know? Poor fellow, he was killed right here. Did you know him? Kumwar, yes, I used to visit occasionally in those days. I also worked in the king's service. Wasn't there anyone else left in his family? The villager replied with a heavy heart, oh brother, don't ask. It's a tragic tale. His wife had already passed away. Only the daughter remained. Ah, what a gentle, graceful girl she was. Just seeing her would brighten your eyes. She looked like a goddess from heaven. When Kuber Singh was alive, Kumwar Rajnath had fled here and stayed with them. Somehow, that girl and Kumwar struck up a conversation. After Kumwar was captured, Chanda was left alone in the house. The villagers tried their best to arrange her marriage. There was no shortage of suitors for her, brother. Who wouldn't consider themselves blessed to marry her? But she refused to marry anyone. That tree you see there was just a small plant back then. There were flower beds all around it. She spent her days tending, weeding, and watering these. She used to say, Kumwar will return. Tears began streaming down Kunwar's eyes. The traveler took a moment and continued. She wasted away day by day. You wouldn't believe it, brother, but she lived like that for 10 years. She had become so frail that she was unrecognizable. But even then, she still held on to hope that Kunwar Sahab would return. Eventually, one day, her body was found under this tree. Who can love like that, brother? Who knows whether Kunwar is dead or alive, whether he ever remembered this girl, but she remained devoted in her love until the very end. Kunwar felt as though his heart was being torn apart. He clutched his chest and sat down. The traveler held a smoldering cow dung cake in his hand. He filled his pipe, took a few puffs, and said, after she died, the house fell into ruin. The village had already been deserted. It became even more desolate. A few people used to come and sit here, but now even a bird doesn't visit. A few months after she died, that same bird began singing on this tree. Since then, I've always heard it here at night. All the other birds sleep at night, but this one sings all night long. Its mate has never been seen. It's all alone. During the day, it stays in that hut. At night, it perches on this tree. But its song has a different quality now. Otherwise, it would make you weep to hear it. It seems as though someone is wringing your heart. Sometimes I end up crying while lying here. Everyone says that this is Chanda. She's still weeping in Kunwar's separation. I believe it too, but today, I don't know why, she seems joyful. The villager finished smoking his pipe and went to sleep. Kunwar stood there for a while, lost in thought. Then, softly, he said, Chanda, is it really you? Why don't you come to me? In a moment, the bird flew down and perched on his hand. In the moonlight, Kunwar gazed at the bird. It seemed as though his eyes had been opened, as if a veil had been lifted from his vision. Even in the bird's form, Chanda's face was imprinted. The next day, when the villager woke up, Kunwar's body was lying there. Kunwar was no more, but the walls of his hut had been rebuilt. A new thatch roof had been laid over it, and flower beds had been planted at its entrance. What more could the village farmers do? Now, a pair of birds had built their nest in that hut. Together, they would go out in search of food, together they would return, and at night, they could be seen perched on the branches of the tree. Their melodious song echoed through the stillness of the night, enchanting the creatures of the forest. There was no doubt that this pair of birds was none other than Kunwar and Chanda. One day, a hunter tried to capture them, but the villagers chased him away. The end.